A string of recent violence in Towson prompting calls for a stronger police presence. How the department is addressing those concerns as a violent year continues.
I'm not up for the dumb questions. I'm up for real questions.
And Mayor Brandon Scott upset with questions amid a week of controversy. Fox 45 News looks into the message he's sending to his city.
A massive explosion leading to a deadly fire caught on camera in Prince George's County. Residents describe the frantic rush to escape the apartment building.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 News at 10.
Good evening, I'm Maxine Stryker.
And I'm Vincent Hill. We begin tonight with breaking news. President Jimmy Carter now in hospice care at the age of 98.
America's oldest living president making the decision to spend his remaining time at home with his family following a series of short hospital stays. Carter was diagnosed with skin cancer in 2015, which has since spread to his brain and liver.
President Carter's grandson, Jason, says he visited both his grandparents Friday, saying they're at peace with that decision and their family is full of love.
And John on Twitter points out some of Carter's accomplishments. He graduated top 10% at the Naval Academy, then served in the nuclear sub program several years before becoming president.
Just yesterday, a building at the Naval Academy was renamed in the president's honor. He graduated there in 1946. Here at home, we're taking a live look at Towson, where more police are on the streets following a string of violence in recent weeks.
A shooting, stabbing, and 3 rapes all since the beginning of the year, and it's leaving residents on edge. We spoke to a local pastor about the root of the violence and what needs to change. It's been a violent start to the year in Towson.
We need to come together, everybody.
Last Sunday, a shooting near the Towson Circle left 1 man injured along Chesapeake and Washington Avenue. Hours later, police say a victim was stabbed multiple times and punched in the face along Chesapeake Avenue. This comes after 3 women were raped at gunpoint steps from the Towson Circle earlier this month. Police arrested 28-year-old Quancy Davis, who police say had a stolen gun from Baltimore City, where court documents show he resides. And in January, several juveniles were arrested after a disturbance near the Towson Circle.
Bring the aggression from city life to living into the county.
Pastor and former police officer James McEachin says he believes much of the violence in the area can be traced back to Baltimore City.
Being seen that now a lot of the murders that are being committed in the county.
Baltimore County Executive Johnny Olszewski says residents shouldn't worry.
I think it also presents a false narrative about the safety of Towson and Baltimore County. Looking at our crime statistics, crime has been persistently flat or down in most cases. That's true also in Towson. So we want to remind folks that Towson and all of Baltimore County is a very safe place to live, work, and raise a family.
They're blind to this because they don't believe this kind of stuff exists.
McEachin says it seems like much more than a narrative.
We haven't seen nothing yet.
A spokesperson for Baltimore County Police says officers have reallocated resources within the Central Towson Entertainment Squad to address safety concerns this weekend, and more police will be on the streets.
Yeah, we need feet on the streets.
Many just hoping this weekend is quieter than the last.
You used to use your hands and solve your problem. Now you got to solve the problem with a gun.
We're learning more about the mayor's conduit deal with BG&E and what it could cost you if the final numbers are approved. If you're a customer, your monthly bill would go up an average of $10.36 a month. So that means you'd pay $124 more annually for utilities. You can see a breakdown of the cost on foxbaltimore.com. BGE filed that request with the Maryland Public Service Commission Friday, 2 days after the deal was approved, but some argue it was rushed.
There's 9% inflation right now. I don't think anybody disputes whether or not the rates are going to go up, but this would allow them to not go up as much.
So this administration has decided to unilaterally support this private institution that has a statewide operation on the backs of Baltimore City residents.
Again,
in a rushed fashion.
Baltimore City Council President Nick Mosby and Comptroller Bill Henry sat out of Wednesday's vote of the Board of Estimates after calling for that conduit deal to be taken off the agenda. Mayor Scott and his 2 appointed BOE members, they voted to approve the deal anyway, something Henry says was illegal. Mayor Scott's office says they were perfectly within their rights to move on the deal.
An unsuccessful attempt to vote solely on the conduit proposal was made to look as if the item had been approved. It wasn't even a very convincing attempt. No opening statement was read. No effort was made to call for a vote on the routine agenda, nor on any other items on the non-routine agenda. Nor were any protests or statements of opposition noted or public comment permitted, all of which would have happened at an actual meeting of the Board of Estimates as is required by the rules and regulations of the board. They're also saying that by not being present, we abstained and so still counted towards quorum, which I have trouble even repeating with a straight face.
Well, Comptroller Henry said he would have been open to the deal, possibly if the terms were, quote, good for Baltimore. But Henry says he doesn't believe that was the case. He will join us live to discuss this situation tomorrow morning at 8:30.
Baltimore City Council member Zeke Cohen has been among louder critics. He's proposing a complete overhaul of the Board of Estimates, replacing appointed and elected members with people from the community who he says would be a better reflection of what's best for Baltimore.
It's not a situation where I want it to become a political tussle between the mayor and the council president or anybody else. This is an opportunity for Baltimoreans, those of us that live here, that are sending our kids to school here, that deal with the day-to-day issues, but that love our city, to have a voice in reshaping it.
Cohen also said he'd be open to disbanding BOE entirely and running spending requests through the city council, like in several other major U.S. cities. Meanwhile, Mayor Brandon Scott in the spotlight this week, dodging questions from Fox 45 while taking other questions personal at times. I spoke to a scholar about his thoughts on Mayor Scott's leadership and how residents are feeling about Mayor Scott's time in office. A tough week for Mayor Brandon Scott. For multiple teens shot, including a 15-year-old Merville High School student still fighting for her life. The mayor responding with this when asked about the city's violence.
Stop right there. I'm telling y'all tonight, I'm not up for it. I'm not up for the dumb questions. I'm up for real questions.
To push back from city leaders about a conduit deal with BGE.
And it looks like this was a power play between the mayor and BGE.
When pressed by Fox 45's Mackenzie Frost, the mayor responding with this.
Do you have anything to gain personally from this contract?
Mackenzie, that's the most disrespectful questions you've ever asked me. No.
You don't answer a question by telling the person it's disrespectful. You answer the question. If you think it's irrelevant, you say it's irrelevant.
Towson rhetoric professor Richard Vatz criticizing Mayor Scott's responses to questions that question his leadership.
His go-to reaction to bad news is not to talk about policy development, but to get angry at those who report the bad news and question about leadership.
Vatz saying Mayor Scott still has a long way to go to be considered a leader.
And I hope he finally makes a decision to be a leader who deals with substantive problems.
So we asked Baltimore residents about the mayor's performance and if he should run for re-election next year. This Hamden resident giving the mayor a passing score.
I believe that the mayor has done a great job, honestly.
Saying the mayor has his vote. Think he should run for re-election?
Sure.
Why do you think he should run for re-election?
Just because of how personally he is with the city and from what I've seen him and how he gets involved.
A few miles away near Mondawmin, this resident says the mayor is barely passing.
I'm giving him a D right now.
He says the mayor hasn't kept his campaign promises.
First, get the crime out the way, because there's too many murders, too much open air drug market. We got to get that down.
And when it comes to a re-election bid for Mayor Scott,
if he was up for re-election right now, he wouldn't win.
So that brings us to our question of the day. Do you approve of Mayor Brandon Scott's job performance? So far, 88% of you say no. Polls just opened. Head to foxbaltimore.com/vote to make your voice heard.
Well, some scary scenes in Silver Spring. Some scary scenes in Silver Spring. One person dead and at least 17 others injured after an apartment fire early this morning. It's unclear what caused that explosion you just saw, but officials say that's what started the fire. At least 150 firefighters were called to this massive scene. The fire located on the 7th floor of the complex.
When I first stood outside, it was like all these flames was falling, and I told my mom it was a fire, and she was like, all right, let's go. She grabbed her things, we left out. And then we just rushed out the door.
It was pretty bad since I didn't get out right. Like the firemen were already there, thank God. There was water coming down the stairs when I was going down, so I had to ask if I was still able to get out.
Well, at least 10 residents were trapped and had to be rescued from their balconies.
Meanwhile, Maryland State Fire Marshal still searching for one person following a house fire in Bel Air. The fire marshal says an explosion may be the cause of it. 2 homeowners were unaccounted for several hours, but have since been found. Officials say equipment is out as they still search for that third person.
It was much cooler outside today, all behind that cold front that brought us more February-like temperatures. We were only in the 40s today, and now we're starting to feel those colder temperatures. 36 over Towson with partly cloudy skies and calm winds. Across the state, we're seeing numbers in the 30s for the most part. Some areas already at freezing, and you can expect another very cold night. But the good news is that we are back to a warming trend as we start the upcoming week. We'll be in the upper 50s tomorrow with a mix of sunshine and clouds. Then upper 50s, low 60s on Monday. Tuesday, even higher temperatures, but we do have the chance for rain on Tuesday as we enter an unsettled pattern. I'll let you know when to expect rain and when we have a major warm-up coming up in my Weather Authority forecast. Back to you.
Well, coming up, Comptroller Brooke Learman reflects on her first month in office and her upcoming goals, her biggest hopes and concerns as she inherits a hefty budget surplus. Following some breaking news right now out of East Baltimore, emergency responders along the 800 block of Montfort Avenue were hearing unconfirmed reports of a fire. Fox 45 News will stay with the story and bring you updates as they become available. It appears there are several fire trucks on the scene right now.
We're almost at the midpoint of this year's legislative session in Annapolis, and much of the discussion has surrounded crime and how to make our cities safer.
Eyes also on Maryland's budget as Governor Wes Moore unveiled his plan last month. Now it's up to the Comptroller's office to keep state spending in check.
New State Comptroller Brooke Learman has been in office for just over a month, and she's already making an impact.
Fox 45's Taylor Stewart sat down with Learman to discuss her terms so far.
Brooke Learman is the first woman to serve as comptroller for the state of Maryland. In her first month, she's hit the ground running. We asked her about the economic outlook for the state, and particularly Baltimore.
There's so much going on, and one of the things that we're really focusing on is how we can build more communities all over the state and here in Baltimore that are more equitable, more resilient, and more prosperous, right? Whether that's through the tax code and working with our governor and General Assembly.
Her administration inherited a budgetary surplus of $2.5 billion in the state's rainy day fund. After years of conservative budgets from the Hogan administration, some fear excess spending under the Democrat-led state legislature.
We're going to pass a budget that's both fiscally prudent and socially responsible. That's what we do here in Maryland.
Comptroller Learman says one of her goals is to modernize budgetary processes that work well and upgrade the ones that aren't as efficient.
Whether that's through the tax code and working with our governor and General Assembly, whether it's just ensuring our administration of our tax system is more streamlined and modernizing our processes so it's easier to do business in the state.
And for all of those Marylanders waiting to file their taxes, Learman says, get it done.
Returns due April 18th, and I remind people, the faster you get it in, the faster we send you your refund.
Taylor Stewart, Fox 45 News.
Meanwhile, it's Shop Maryland Energy Weekend, meaning no 6% sales tax on select big household items like washers, dryers, and refrigerators. Learman also addressed the importance of these appliances.
Consumers, all Marylanders, and anybody who's shopping in our Maryland businesses can buy new or used Energy Star appliances and save that 6% sales tax this weekend. But also, we know that these products, because they're more energy efficient, you're saving money on your monthly bill over the long term. So it's a great deal.
Any appliance that qualifies as Energy Star will be eligible for the 6% savings. Creativity and history on display at a Baltimore museum. A look at the unique sculptures of the people who have helped shape Black progress in America.
Fox 45 News on the scene of this reported house fire in East Baltimore along Montford Avenue right now. Our photographer just spoke to a neighbor who said this fire started around